The day my parents told me to pack up and leave was the same day my startup got acquired for 30 million. No hugs, no conversation, just a knock on my door and a line I'll never forget. Chase needs the room. You've had your turn. I'm Darren Wells. 35. Divorced, quiet. The kind of son who never made a scene, who paid his share, and who kept his dreams low volume. After my marriage collapsed, I moved back home for a while, just until the deal closed. I thought I could coexist. I thought they'd see I wasn't broken, just rebuilding. Instead, they saw a placeholder, a problem, a delay in their golden child's comfort. I didn't argue. I packed my bag and walked out with a backpack and dignity they never recognized. By sundown, that house would belong to a holding company, mine. They thought they were cutting me off. They had no idea I'd spent the last 3 years quietly building the scissors. The day my parents told me to pack up and leave was the same day my startup got acquired for 30 million. No hugs, no conversation, just a knock on my door and a line I'll never forget. Chase needs the room. You've had your turn. I'm Darren Wells. 35. Divorced. The kind of son who never made a scene, who paid his share, and who kept his dreams low volume. After my marriage collapsed, I moved back home for a while, just until the deal closed. I thought I could coexist. I thought they'd see I wasn't broken, just rebuilding. Instead, they saw a placeholder, a problem, a delay in their golden child's comfort. I didn't argue. I packed my bag and walked out with a backpack and dignity they never recognized. By sundown, that house would belong to a holding company, mine. They thought they were cutting me off. They had no idea I'd spent the last 3 years quietly building the scissors. It started with a knock. Not the polite kind. Not the kind that waits. 3 short raps. Then the door creaked open before I even answered. My mom didn't step in. She stood in the hallway, arms crossed, like she was the one who'd been interrupted. "We need to talk?" she said. Those 4 words had never meant anything good in this house. I muted my laptop screen. Even though there wasn't much to hide, just rows of funding spreadsheets and a Zoom window with my business partner waiting to finalize a contract we'd spent 3 years building. I pushed the chair back. "What's up?" She glanced at my half-unpacked boxes, the small pile of laundry near the closet, and the coffee mug on the windowsill. "You said you'd only be here for a few weeks," she said. "It's been 5 months." "I know," I replied. "But the lease fell through in October, and I needed time to." "Chase is moving back in," she cut me off. "With Hannah." I blinked. "What?" "They just got engaged," she added quickly, like it somehow justified everything. "They need the room. The house is already tight as it is." I looked at her. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mom," I said calmly, "Chase doesn't work. He's bounced between jobs for the last 3 years. I've been paying rent here. I've bought groceries. She shook her head. "This isn't about rent, Darren. You're 35. You should be standing on your own by now." I swallowed that line like a splinter. I was standing. She just hadn't bothered to look. "Dad agrees." I asked. "He's downstairs." She replied flatly. "He thinks it's time?" "We both do." I waited. Part of me hoped she'd soften. Say something kind. Offer a transition plan. Even a week. A day. Instead, she stepped aside, and Chase appeared behind her, all smug confidence in gym clothes. He slapped the doorframe. "Hey big bro. Guess it's your turn to bounce." I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I stood up, walked to the closet, and pulled out my old canvas backpack. It still smelled faintly of old coffee and airplane cabins. I tossed in my laptop charger, 2 shirts, 1 book, and my USB drive, the one with all the signed contracts. No one offered to help. No one asked if I had anywhere to go. Chase leaned against the wall, arms folded. "You sure you don't want to say goodbye?" He smirked. "Or leave a forwarding address? You know, in case Mom wants to send cookies or something." I zipped the backpack, slung it over my shoulder, and faced them. "I'm good," I said. I didn't slam the door. Didn't look back. I walked down the stairs, past my father, who didn't look up from his phone, and stepped out onto the porch, where sunlight had just started to stretch across the lawn. The world looked the same. But something in me had shifted. They thought they were reclaiming the space. They had no idea. I'd already outgrown it. I didn't have a destination in mind. No plan. No backup apartment. No friend's couch lined up. Just me, a backpack, and a phone with 18% battery. I walked 2 blocks to the coffee shop where I used to grade papers back when I taught community college. Before I left it all to build something that, for 3 years, no one in my family bothered to ask about. The shop looked the same. Same cracked leather couch in the corner. Same bell that jingled when the door opened. The barista didn't recognize me, and I didn't expect her to. I ordered a chamomile tea, paid in cash, and found a quiet table near the back. That's when the buzz came. A short vibration from my phone, followed by a single push notification at new message: Larkbridge Ventures, acquisition approved. Transfer in process. I stared at it. Blinked once. Subject final confirmation. Transaction completed from acquisitions Larkbridge of C. Comto Darren Wellslern. Com Darren, congratulations. As of 9:14 a.m. EST, the acquisition of Wellslern has been finalized. The full payout 30 LMM will be distributed according to the terms discussed. Your LLC account has been funded. It's been a pleasure working with you. Larkbridge team. I didn't smile. Didn't fist pump. Didn't even breathe for a few seconds. Instead, I lowered the phone, picked up my tea, and let the steam touch my face like a question. Was I relieved? Triumphant? No, I was tired. Tired of working in silence. Tired of being invisible in a house where noise and drama always won. Tired of giving them the benefit of the doubt. I thought back to last night. Me sitting at the kitchen table showing Mama design for the newest module. She'd glanced at it and asked, "So this is like a school thing?" That was it. That was the extent of her interest. And now, she'd made space for Chase. Again. I took another sip of tea and opened my banking app. The balance stared back at me, surreal and concrete all at once. 30,000 to clean confirmed. Untouchable. I let out a slow breath, then tapped to transfer a portion into a trust account I had quietly set up months ago. No co-signers, no relatives, no access but mine. When the transfer was completed, I turned off my phone and sat back. They didn't ask me to leave because I had nothing. They asked me to leave because they assumed I always would. Let them assume. I sat in that cafe for nearly 2 hours. Not because I had nowhere else to go, but because I finally had nowhere I had to be. The quiet felt foreign, like wearing someone else's coat. No noise, no demands, no passive-aggressive comments echoing from the kitchen, just silence and memory. I was 12 when I first realized I was optional. It was Chase's birthday. He got the new bike he wanted, sleek, red, still smelling like factory paint. I had saved up for months to buy him a custom helmet. Not because anyone told me to, just because I thought it'd make him smile. He opened it, glanced at the box, then tossed it aside when Mom wheeled out the cake. No, thank you. No acknowledgement. Later that night, I found the helmet in the trash, still in its wrapping. When I told Mom, she sighed and said, "He's just young. Don't be so sensitive." At 17, I got a full scholarship offer to a state university. I remember bursting through the front door, holding the letter, voice shaking. Dad didn't look up from the TV. "Good job," he said flatly. "Did you check if Chase finished his math homework?" Chase was 13. He had flunked 3 classes that semester. I spent half my senior year tutoring him just so Mom wouldn't pull me out of track practice. At 26, I lent Chase 4,000 zlotin when he said he wanted to open a sneaker shop. He said I was the only one who believed in him. 3 months later, the shop was gone. The inventory. Sold online. When I asked where the money went, he said, "Don't guilt trip me. It's not like you needed it." Mom said I should let it go. Family helps family. I remember wondering if that rule applied to me. Even my divorce wasn't a real event in their eyes. Rachel left because I was too quiet, too careful, and too obsessed with work. My parents met her once after that and told me she seemed like sweet girl. Dad had said, "She probably just wanted more than you could give." They didn't ask how I was holding up. They didn't even ask where I was sleeping. And then, last week, when I overheard Mom on the phone with her friend from church, the words landed harder than they should have. "Darren's still here. It's been months. I don't know. It just makes the house feel stuck." That was the moment. Not the eviction. Not the indifference. It was that sentence, casual, tossed out between laundry and lemon bars, that confirmed what I had always suspected. To them, I wasn't Darren, the builder, the survivor, or the founder. I was a placeholder, a presence, an obligation. But the thing is, obligations don't leave quietly. They don't walk away with nothing. They remember. They grow teeth. And when they finally speak, they don't ask for permission. I opened my laptop again. I clicked into the property database I had bookmarked months ago. Not because I was searching, but because I was waiting, watching, and sure enough it was there. 921 Redford Lane, pre-listing status private seller inquiry. Motivated. Will consider offers. So that was it. They hadn't told me, but they were planning to sell. Maybe to help fund Chasey's wedding. Maybe to downsize. Maybe because they thought I'd never find out. They didn't know I'd been tracking it. They didn't know Finch Point Holdings was me. I typed a short message to my legal team. Subject property 921 Redford Lane. Proceed with the initial offer. Use a shell LC for discretion. Budget flexible. 1 hour later, the house I had grown up in, been dismissed in, and finally been kicked out of, was under contract. Mine. Quietly. Legally. Irrevocably. The past may not owe me anything. But I owed myself closure. 3 days after the deal went under contract, I got a call from Pillar, my attorney. "I did some digging, like you asked," she said. "It's not just the house." I was sitting in a co-working lounge downtown, sipping cold brew and staring at a blank doc titled, "Next Chapter." "What do you mean?" I asked. Your grandfather, Harold Wells, she said. He set up a family trust 30 years ago. Moderate in size, invested well, mostly passive income, earmarked for his grandkids. I nodded slowly. I remember. He used to say it was for our first big risk, college, a business, a down payment. Pilar paused. Your name's not on it. I sat forward. Excuse me. The current records list only one grandchild as beneficiary. Chase. Silence. Not shock, just confirmation. Years ago, after Grandpa passed, Dad called a family meeting. He said the trust would stay dormant for now, that we'd discuss it later. We never did. I was in the middle of launching Wells Learn back then. Working 2 jobs, sleeping 4 hours a night. I never followed up. Because I trusted them. Because I didn't think I'd need to. Now I realized that was the plan. I met Pilar in person that afternoon. She slid a thin folder across the table. We found a prior version, she said, dated 2 years before Harold died. Your name was listed first. I scanned the page. To Darren Wells, for his tenacity and quiet strength. There was a line through it, a thick black stroke in your father's handwriting. Beside it removed, Darren to find his own way. Initialed, dated. My hands tightened. They filed a revision and never told you. Pilar said softly. Technically legal, ethically. Not so much. I looked up. Can we contest it? She hesitated. It's difficult, but if it's tied to misrepresentation or manipulation of Harold's intent, maybe. Especially if we can prove financial favoritism that caused you direct harm. I leaned back. Let's build the case. But I don't want the money. Pilar blinked. Then what do you want? I want the paper trail, I said. I want the story they tried to bury. That night, I opened my inbox. One new message. Ram Hanatran Hatran. Personal of Outlook. Subject, just so you know, Darren. I don't know if this means anything, but something felt off last week. Chase was talking to my parents and said something like, we simplified the trust, kept it clean. When I asked what that meant, he brushed it off. Said you weren't involved. And never really cared. I'm not sure what's true anymore. But if something is being hidden from you, I thought you should know. I'm sorry if this is out of line. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not because it hurt, because it didn't. Not anymore. But what caught me wasn't what she said. It was who said it. Hannah had always played it safe. Polite smiles at family dinners, silent when I was overlooked. But I had seen the cracks. The way she paused when Chase talked too fast. The quiet tension in her shoulders. The questions she never asked out loud. A month ago, outside a grocery store, she bumped into me. Said Chase was stressed. Then asked, softly, did you ever regret being the quiet one? I didn't answer, just nodded. She nodded back like she already knew. Now here she was, sending me what could unravel everything. Maybe it wasn't about helping me. Maybe she was helping herself. Trying to escape a legacy she didn't want to marry into. Either way, it was the first real act of honesty I'd seen from that side in years. And it told me one thing, I wasn't bitter. I was right. The invitation wasn't sent to me directly. It came through a mutual friend on Facebook. One of those mass tag posts with gold fonts and Fox, sincere captions. Celebrating Chase and Hannah. Join us for a night of love, family, and new beginnings. New beginnings, huh? For whom? Still I RSVP'd. Didn't text Pilar this time. She just sent one line. If you're going, bring the folder and wear the dark suit. The venue was uptown. Rooftop string lights, champagne flutes, filtered laughter. I arrived 15 minutes early. The host barely looked at me before handing me a lanyard guest support, as if I were staff. I clipped it on without blinking. Inside, I watched people toast to legacy and family, not realizing the foundation was already crumbling. Chase was at the bar, laughing too loud. Mom stood near the terrace, already tipsy. Dad hovered beside her, stiff and quiet like always. And then there was Hannah, not in white, not in sparkle, just a soft blue dress, hair pinned neatly, hands folded too tightly to be at peace. Our eyes met across the room. She didn't smile. The speeches started at sunset. Chase tapped his glass. To love, to loyalty, and to building something that lasts. I stepped forward and set a white envelope gently on the marble table beside him. He blinked. What's this? He opened it. Slowly. Read the first line aloud, without realizing the mic was still on. To Darren Wells, for his tenacity and quiet strength. The words fell into the room like broken glass. A hush, then glances. Then, where did you get this? He hissed, his voice now low and shaky. From someone who remembered what integrity looks like, I said. Chase's face flushed. You've got nerve showing up like this. I didn't reply. Hannah stepped forward. What is that? Chase moved to cover the paper, but she was faster. Snatched it, read. Froze. You told me he was never part of it, she whispered. Chase stammered. He wasn't. Hey. He was cut out ages ago. It didn't matter. Hannah didn't look at him. Her voice cracked but stayed sharp. You lied to me. She turned to the guests, half of whom were already whispering. There will be no wedding, she said. Gasps, a dropped fork, someone spilled Prosecco. Chase barked, Hannah, don't do this here. No, she said. You did this. You lied to your fiancé. To your family. You buried your brother for convenience. I'd be a fool to marry into that. Then she pulled the ring from her finger. Dropped it into his untouched glass. The clink echoed like a verdict. Mom tried to intervene. Hannah, wait. Don't make a scene. Scene. She turned. He was the scene. I was just the lighting. She walked out. Head high, back straight, no tears. The door closed behind her with a soft but final click. I didn't stay long after that. Didn't need to. As I turned to leave, I passed Dad. He looked older than I remembered. You could have handled this privately, he muttered. I stopped. So could you, I said. 5 years ago. But you chose silence. This is just the echo of your decision. He didn't respond. I walked away before the echo hit him. That night, I received a text. From unknown number message. I'm sorry it took me too long to see it. You deserved better. Thank you for not letting me walk into something built on lies. I stared at it for a moment, then typed you deserve better too. Start there. I never heard from her again. But I didn't need to. The rooftop lights faded behind me as I stepped into the street. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt still, not empty. Just done. Done carrying what wasn't mine. Done waiting for them to see what they were never willing to look at. I walked 4 blocks in silence. No music, no calls. Just the soft rhythm of my shoes on pavement and the quiet exhale of a city that had already moved on to its next distraction. The air was cooler than I expected. Fall had crept in, without fanfare, without asking, like closure. At home, I didn't turn on the lights. I dropped the lanyard, guest support, into the trash, changed into sweats, and brewed tea. Chamomile. Always chamomile. I sat on the balcony with the city below me, hands wrapped around warmth. My phone buzzed. Pilar. Her message was short. We have enough. If you're ready, I'll file Monday. I stared at it for a long second. Then typed back, make it official. Across the room sat a box I hadn't opened in years. Inside, a photo of Grandpa Harold holding a fishing rod, grinning too wide. The original draft of the trust, printed and laminated. A notebook with scribbled app wireframes from the early days of Wells Learn. I picked up a page. One I wrote 3 years ago, during one of the loneliest nights of my life. When they stop seeing you, build something so undeniable they have no choice but to feel the absence. I smiled, not out of pride, out of recognition. That man. Oh, the one who wrote those words. He's the one walking into court. There's a kind of quiet that only exists in courtrooms, not the kind born from respect, the kind that tastes like breath held too long, like everyone knows someone's about to bleed. They just don't know who's first. I sat at the plaintiff's table, navy suit, pressed collar, no cufflinks, no theatrics, just intention. Pillar sat beside me, composed as ever. Across the aisle Chase, trying to look relaxed in a suit he probably borrowed confidence from. My parents flanked him. Mom avoided my gaze. Dad adjusted his tie 3 times before the judge entered. The clerk called the case. Darren Wells vs. Chase Wells et al. Charges breach of fiduciary duty, fraudulent exclusion, concealment of trust information. Chase's attorney went first. He spun the usual family misunderstanding, no malice, and redistribution for simplicity. He said I had come into wealth recently, and that this suit was about bruised feelings, not broken laws. I didn't move. Pillar didn't blink. Then it was our turn. She stood, slow and certain. This isn't about inheritance. This is about erasure, intentional and strategic. She submitted the original version of the trust, with my grandfather's handwritten note. To Darren Wells, for his quiet strength. The revision, dated and initialed by my father, removed. Darren to find his own way. The current trust, listing only Chase, with disbursements labeled family investments, that included a luxury honeymoon and a cryptocurrency loss. The judge looked intrigued. Then Pilar said, Your Honor, we also received a recording from a third-party source, a neighbor's smart doorbell camera. Date, stamped. Location confirmed. Audio clear. He gave a nod. And suddenly, the courtroom filled with the brittle, familiar sound of my mother's voice. Don't worry. He won't fight back. He's used to being forgotten. Then Chasey. If he finds out, let him. He'll whine, maybe write a blog. That's all he ever does. The silence afterward was suffocating. Even the bailiff looked disgusted. When it was my turn to speak, I stood. No anger. No theatrics. Just be calm. Anchored. I didn't come here for money. I didn't even come here for fairness. I came for truth. Because when someone rewrites the story you were born into and erases your name, you don't rewrite it back with rage. You use ink. They can't smudge a fact. Paper law. I looked at Chase. At my father. They said I wouldn't fight back. They were half right. I didn't fight. I built. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. This court finds sufficient evidence of intentional exclusion and deceptive revision. The trust will be amended to include Darren Wells as originally intended. Disbursement freezes go into effect immediately pending audit. Statutory damages. $1. He looked over the rim of his glasses, because what was taken wasn't money, it was acknowledgement. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited. Microphones. Headlines. I didn't stop. Didn't speak. Some wins don't belong to press conferences, they belong to silence. That night, back in my apartment, I poured myself a cup of tea. Not to celebrate, just to breathe. I looked over at the coffee table. The trust document sat there, clean, corrected, indisputable. Next to it, a photo of me and Grandpa Harold fishing on the lake. He had scrawled on the back, "To the one who doesn't speak first, but always sees the farthest." I raised my mug to no one in particular. Not for victory, but for restoration. 2 weeks later, the final paperwork arrived. The trust had been amended. My name was back, where it always should have been. But I didn't cash a cent. I asked Pillar to redirect the full amount into a scholarship fund. One designed for kids who never got the benefit of the right last name. Call it the Harold Grant. I told her, make sure the quiet ones get seen. She didn't say much, just smiled and nodded once. That was enough. The house at 921 Redford Lane closed escrow that Friday. I never moved in, didn't repaint, didn't remodel, didn't even unlock the front door. Instead, I handed the keys to a local youth arts nonprofit. They'd turn it into a creative center. Workshops, mentoring, somewhere kids could go when the world didn't make room for them. Why not keep it? A friend asked. Because I wasn't interested in owning ghosts. I was building echoes. Mom called once. Left a voicemail I never returned. We never meant for things to get this far. Maybe come by for dinner sometime. There was no malice in her voice, but no apology either. Just the sound of someone who missed the idea of me. Not the real thing. Dad didn't call at all. And Chase, he posted a vague message on social media about lessons learned. Then disappeared from every platform for a while. I didn't follow up. Didn't need to. Their silence was its own confession. Life didn't change overnight, but it shifted, quietly, deeply. I kept building Wells Learn. Took on 2 new hires, started sleeping better, started laughing again. One morning, I met with a high school senior who'd been accepted into the scholarship fund. She told me, no one ever took me seriously until this. And I remembered what it felt like to be 17. To be invisible. Don't wait for them to see you. I told her, become the kind of person they can't ignore. On the anniversary of my grandfather's passing, I went to the lake. Same place we fished when I was 12. I brought nothing but a folded chair and that photo he left behind. Sat still, listened to the water. Let the wind carry everything I no longer needed to hold. Closure doesn't come as fireworks. It comes as the first moment you stop explaining yourself. The first breath that doesn't carry the weight of proving your worth. The first night you sleep, without waiting for someone to call you home. Because you've already arrived. In yourself. For good.